your unrivaled source for backstage, the locker room, and beyond. I'm Thaddeus Archer III, and this is The Archer Report.
All right, so we're this is the snake is here.
It's not a snake.
He's not a snake. That, of course, I'm referencing to our review of the last PWA show, in which I used a clip of Michael Richard Blaze calling this man a snake. We're going to give him his opportunity to speak. It actually came from your YouTube video. Just straight up stole it. It's Thaddeus Archer III, who is joining you. Thank you. Who's joining us today? And so we're gonna sit down. We're gonna talk. You got some explaining to do, but I figure, you know what? Let's let Thad introduce himself to the Discover Progress audience, which is the Discover Progress audience this time.
Currently,
Adam absolutely hated that.
That's technically the only thing you've done right recently. I'm a huge fan of the Progress. Yeah.
See, there you go. The Discover Progress.
I'm a dad. That's
So,
perfect.
yeah.
You got to go for the pun, man. You got to go for like below the belt. Yeah.
Yep. It was that low-hanging fruit. Just reached out and grabbed it,
And you have to grab it every single time.
to grab it. So, of course, you, sir, are the commissioner of PWA.
Yes.
Otherwise, we wouldn't bring you in on the show. There's no reason to bring you here, but you got something to say. So let's talk real quick. Let's get to know Thaddeus Archer III real fast here before we get down to business. Do Thaddeus Archer and Thaddeus Archer II still call you on a regular basis? Are they still in
They've
contact?
since passed.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you're just free to do whatever you want, to drag the name through the mud all you want.
Well, I have my daughter, Tabitha Archer III.
Okay.
So TA3 2.0. She's been on a couple Archer reports. So yeah, I have her to carry on the lineage, and I'll drag it any which way I want, and she can pick it up from there. It's like how the environment is in nowadays, and everybody talking how the big buzz point is you're leaving me with this, or you're really leaving me with that,
Right.
and everybody's petitioning. Yeah, I'm leaving her with this trash heap, and she can deal with it as she wishes. So,
All right, fair enough.
some men like to watch the world burn.
That's fair. Okay, so TA3, do you remember, can you go back to like that first memory moment or whatever where you're like, I want to be involved in wrestling in some way when I'm a grown man?
Yeah, so this is tough because everybody has like their first wrestling memory.
Yeah.
And I have racked my brain on this like crazy. I think the closest thing I can come to is, so on Saturday mornings, you would have Maple Leaf Wrestling.
Right.
There'd be Stampede reruns.
Right.
And there'd be like Maple Leaf Wrestling. I think that's what they called Stampede, or that was the WWE portion of like the Canadian
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
That came on after.
Right.
And so I remember catching the Stampede reruns, and I'm sure it was Brett. I can't, like, it's him and Gamma or something like that. Like, I keep bugging myself trying to figure out what it was, but it was Stampede. I know it was. And then catching WWE after, and it was sort of like night and day. It was like the rawness of what Stampede was, and all of a sudden there's like this bright Hulk Hogan-y type thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so that drew me in. That wasn't where I, said I want to be part of wrestling. It just drew me in.
Right.
And my father hated wrestling, so I'd have to like sneak off to the den, the place I could, and watch it. And occasionally he'd walk in, and he'd be like, "How can you watch that crap?"
Right.
But I'd still watch it. I still kind of stick with it. And it wasn't till... So in junior high, I convinced my school to let me do work experience at the local video store.
Okay.
I said, I want to be a filmmaker because of Kevin Smith and different things.
So you're warming my heart a little bit by drawing back to Kevin Smith. So, and I mean, this guy over here is going to hate you a little more, but this is awesome. I like this. Okay. I'm switching sides. Thaddeus Archer III, good guy.
This is how I work. I convinced them to let me work at the local video store, and they let me do it. So for like a couple periods a day, I'd get to go work at the video store, and all I ever did was run the vacuum, right? And I wasn't allowed to go in that bad room with the beaded curtains, but I was allowed to take home 7 VHS a day. And which, as long as, like I brought him back. Yeah. And I've never been much of a big sleeper, but he had this giant section of like old wrestling VHS, Coliseum home video, and then like anything, any weird kind of thing. There was some NWA stuff that you could find, and I could take home 7 a day. So I would I barely slept at that time because I would take it home and I would stay up as late as I could watching everything and trying to chronologically, because there'd be like SummerSlam, like 89, and you just try to, I knew how everything worked, so I was trying to follow everything to catch up because all I'd ever really seen is TV. Yeah. My father would never take me to a show or, get some kind of pay-per-view or... So, I kind of just took it all in, and as I watched everything, one of the things that really stood out to me was Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Sure.
And I was always a small kid. I was never a tough guy. I'll be willing to admit that, even though I've been in some fights in my time and I've taken some barbed wire and thumbtacks. But I knew, I even then, I knew I never wanted to really be a wrestler, but I loved what Bobby the Brain Heenan could do. Yeah. And how he could manipulate the wrestlers and the crowd and the other announcers. Every character sort of he could wrap them around his little finger, and then eventually he'd get his comeuppance, and it would be this kind of cyclical thing where he something would happen to him, but he'd always just be back again. And even when he was doing commentary with Gorilla and stuff like that, he was always throwing little barbs. He seemed like a level above everybody else.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when I thought I could do that. Yeah. That's something I'd like to do. Yeah. And it was then stuck in the back of my head.
You said that was junior high? Is that what you were, or high school?
Yeah, I'd say junior high.
Junior high? Yeah.
Grade 7.
So, speaking of Bobby the Brain, I mean, he was a big player on WWF and then WCW down the road. Were you a WWF or WCW guy?
I was both. Actually, I miss WCW so much. Yeah. My dad ended up getting cable. We lived in a small town, and no one really had cable. And he worked for AGT, and he was like a tech guy.
That's a throwback.
That's it. Alberta government telephones. Fuck you, tell us. Sorry, excuse my French. We'll bleep that out later. But anyways, he had to get cable and stuff, and he got TBS. And then TBS came out, and I'd seen some NWA stuff, like I said. But all of a sudden, it was there's a whole other wrestling federation. Yeah, man. And Saturday night with some of them, even they had just as equally goofy stuff. And I kind of fell in love with it. So during the Monday Night Wars, for me, it was just heaven. Yeah. Because I bounced back and forth. I remember watching the whole NWO and everything happening. Because as a kid, at one point, one of my biggest, one of the guys I loved the most after Brett was Diesel, just because that was that era, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And Sean and that kind of stuff. So when Diesel went over to this other company, then all of a sudden just get your mind going crazy. So I kind of ate it all up. I was never on the fence saying I'm this or I'm that. If it was wrestling, I just absorb it. I remember trying to find, spending hours on dial-up trying to get ECW footage down. Okay. Just because I knew of this ECW, I'd seen pictures, and I wanted to learn about it. Right. So when it's wrestling, I just need to absorb it all. I don't really choose a side.
Yeah, that's fair. No, and I can remember during the Monday Night Wars and whatever going. I grew up more I was familiar with WWF, but grew up more watching WCW. When you said Saturday mornings, I thought that's the route you were going to go because I can remember getting up early Saturday mornings, TBS on, and watching WCW.
And I do that too. Yeah, when that time came around, Clash of the Champions. Finally you got to see a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was free pay-per-view
on TV. It would be the best 3 hours of the month sort of thing. Yeah,
for sure. So. And then ECW eventually down the road when it was on
TNN.
Yeah. Yep. On Friday nights or whatever.
That was I got goosebumps thinking about it because I was just so excited. Yeah. And they had the Kid Rock, Ba to the Ba, lead up, mixed clip of all the violence and stuff like that. I could watch that over and over.
So speaking of, this is a very hot topic buzz thing right now in the wrestling world, of course, is AEW, NXT, Wednesday nights. Did you watch Dynamite? I mean, we're recording this a day after it's happened. So, for anyone listening,
I'm a little behind. So, obviously, a couple things have gotten spoiled for me.
Yeah,
but
that's the worst now, though.
It's kind of something you almost have to live with. Yeah, I think the only time that I've literally blacked out on social media, Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, if I don't get to watch them, because I have a busy life, family, that sort of stuff. So sometimes I'll wait till later in the day. Yeah. That's the only time I've really done blackouts. The rest of the time it's just too difficult because
I just started utilizing my mute options in Twitter when things roll around.
I got to play with that more.
Yeah, well, So currently on my muted list is Progress Wrestling, and I should take it off because
We finished that.
Yeah, I was muting it for they had their Chapter 95, their biggest show of the year. Plus they had a big tournament that all happened on the same weekend. I was like, I don't want anything spoiled, and got the biggest thing of the whole weekend spoiled, even though I muted everyone I thought I needed to mute, and then I'm like, damn it, I know who the champion is now.
And that's how it gets you. That's
Yeah.
like Game of Thrones, you name it, it'll get out there to
Yeah.
you somehow. So you
Yeah.
have to either learn to live with the spoilers now with social media or not.
Well,
so.
it's funny because I basically have like my personal Twitter and then like the Twitter for this show,
Progress.
right?
Yeah.
And so the Twitter for this show typically nowadays, once Wednesday rolls around, I just try to stay off it until Friday when I've caught up on everything, right? But the Progress thing, I was on my personal Twitter, and I happened to follow Mark Andrews because he's in a band that I like, and he tweeted a picture that spoiled the end of the big show, and I was like, fuck. He wasn't even on the show, so I wasn't thinking about
And
it.
you get so angry because it's like I went to all this effort to
Yeah.
avoid it,
avoid it.
and then
Boom,
it still
it's gone.
gets you. It's always going to get
Dang
you.
it.
So.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, it's like with NXT this from Wednesday.
Yeah.
We each spoiled something
You haven't
completely
spoiled
different
it
from
for
each
me.
other.
Yeah.
He knew about something, and I knew about something different. And he mentioned his something to me while we were at Tim Hortons this morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, that wasn't
That
my
wasn't it.
spoiler.
Yeah. Well, I was
We
like,
just double spoiled each other.
yeah, well, because he texts me. He's like, "Yeah, I just had something big spoiled from NXT," and because I mean, obviously in Canada, I'm pretty sure the only way you can watch it right now is on the network.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to wait a day, right? And so I was like, "Oh, so did I." And then I was like, "I wonder if it's the same thing." So I asked him, I was like, "Was it like something that happened, or like a debut / return?" He's like, "It was a debut / return." And then so I just I mimed who I had spoiled. He's like, "That's not it." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Now you spoiled that for me." I'm like,
There was two.
all right,
right away.
cool, yeah. So yeah, we're currently just over halfway through
Yeah.
watching it. So I'm
Okay.
like, the one that I had spoiled has already happened. So I'm like, all right.
There's a
least
good
thankfully.
chance tonight I'll probably go and catch up. But
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
what were we going to say?
Oh, no.
Is it like so you had that spoiled for yourself? Some
yeah.
things?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Flipping
can't
Twitter,
help it.
man.
Yeah, not even Twitter. Like, just everything I follow and people that follow me, Instagram. It was everything.
Yeah.
Like the people posting the same picture at the end of Dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that. Like, I think it was around supper time today.
Yeah.
My entire feed
jeez,
going
yeah.
through was like Facebook was just like, okay, there it is.
There
like,
it is.
You basically drag your finger down and see it once. Like,
Yeah.
oh, there it is, and there it is again. And I actually literally thought something was wrong with my feed for a second because I'm like, why
It's
does
just
this
the
keep
same thing,
popping up,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, and it was funny. I without saying too much, because I figured I watched Dynamite specifically to see. I was like, someone's got to debut. There's got to be something. And then so as I was watching, as the end is rolling around, as each person kind of comes out, runs out, I was kind of like, oh, really? That's who's run. Oh, okay, that's all right. Like by the end of the way they did, it was like okay, but yeah.
Well,
so,
and you weren't watching WWE when...
no, I was.
He
I
was.
I was
Oh, no,
watching.
I guess,
right
yeah.
towards the end of
The
his
back
time.
end
Yeah,
of it,
because
yeah.
like so I stopped watching wrestling for like a long time. I watched the last kind of time I can remember watching was right after Vince bought WCW.
Okay,
Like
that's-
that whole angle is kind of when
a lot of people, or the
petered out,
invasion
yeah.
kind of petered a lot of people out
Yeah.
of it because it was exhausting,
Yeah.
and the people that love WCW were
Yeah.
kind of hoping like it's finally here, we get to
Yeah.
finally see this.
None
and
of the big names came over.
no, Goldberg and Sting were sitting at home with their feet up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then when I started working with this guy, he's like, "Oh, but we would talk about old school wrestling." And then he's like, "You should watch NXT." And that's what just dragged me back in. And it was like from there I watch so much wrestling. like I watch something every day. Like it's ridiculous.
Well, that's what we
now.
do at lunch.
Yeah, it was like every lunch we watch something, and then I watch something on it. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
stop. It doesn't
Spirals
stop.
from
Yeah,
there.
it's
Yeah, I got to
really-
get into Progress a little more. I'm
It's-
behind.
Yeah, you should.
I'm behind on a lot of indie stuff. I get in Defy sometimes. I just pick and do like PWG, MLW.
yeah.
Obviously, I like to keep
Yeah.
tabs on because Harry and Teddy are there.
Yeah, and MLW's nice because their shows are up on YouTube, like
Yes.
or on the Fight Network, like
Yeah.
app or whatever, and you can watch those for free, which is great. Same with, ROH, their shows are up for free on Fight as well every week.
Yeah, and
They're-
you go clip hunting to some
Yeah.
degree if you kind of want to follow where things are.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on ROH.
It's fine.
You know the Archer Report, obviously, right?
I've watched a few
Yeah,
episodes.
yeah.
I've stolen audio from an episode.
Yeah, so there you go. So if you watch ROH recently, they have a bi-spectacled person doing backstage reports, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
comedic and sometimes it isn't. And just prior to that, they had the two guys, I can't remember, they were like Guido-y type guys, and they were going, it was right when the Elite was still sort of there.
Yeah.
It was one of the Being the Elites, they had Lanny Poffo on, and these guys were going backstage and doing the same sort of goofy kind of thing, and I was like, the Archer Report, man. Like, these guys are doing my shtick. They stole my gimmick. And now they have, I can't remember what they call it, Honor Club or something like that.
Yeah.
And they have, I can't remember her name, of course, but she has similar glasses and she dresses in fancy little suits and she's doing backstage interviews.
Yeah, I kept up with ROH for a while. I haven't in quite some time.
I kind of dropped off when the Elite sort of left. Marty, I keep an eye. I love Marty Scurll so much.
Well, and I was going to say a great reason to get into Progress is because if you go back and you watch early Progress, you can see Marty Scurll start out as a guy named Party Marty Scurll and work his way to being
the evolution.
the villain. Yeah,
you
the
literally
evolution.
just started watching the chapter where he was
it's either
introduced
the
as the villain.
Yeah, the chapter I'm watching now or the one before. And he's finally introduced as the villain. Kind of comes out with not like the whoop whoop music, but it's like a version sort of that early on. And
I remember seeing like when he first got signed to Ring of Honor, and I was like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
And I remember Party Marty from what was it, Teenage Boot Camp or something like that. Or he was he was
like a reality TV show.
Yeah, it was the Teenage Overseas thing where they did some sort of boot camp with the English people. The English people.
The English people.
What did you call me?
Yeah.
You people. But no, and so I knew him from there, and I didn't put two and two together until later. Someone's like, "Yeah, it's Party Marty." But I'd love to watch that transcript.
Yeah, and so
there,
and with if Demand Progress or whatever, they're on demand, not to try and sell it, but it's great because one thing I will give Progress massive credit for, and even like their latest show, I'm like, wow, is their ability to tell a story over a long period of time. Like they will tell stories over years sometimes.
Beautiful.
And they just not even wrapped up, but really kind of like brought a new chapter to a story that like
it started in like chapter.
Yeah, well, yeah, like, but I mean, like
six or
looking
something
back
like
to so like Mark Andrews, I'm sure you're familiar with, and Eddie Dennis, they're both NXT UK guys. They had a match in Progress a year ago at Wembley Arena, which was supposed to be like the culmination of this whole fall apart of them as friends as a tag team. They have this huge match, and the winner of it, which we totally forgot about because they just walked away from it. The winner of it got a title shot. And then you don't hear anything about it. And part of it, I think, was the fact that Eddie Dennis got hurt. And then all of a sudden, like, Adam and I were sitting there, and he's like, this is what I had spoiled for me. He's like, hey, whatever happened with Eddie Dennis's title shot? And I'm just like, looking at him like,
why are you asking?
Don't ask, man. Like, because I knew. I was like, when I saw, I was like, oh, wait a minute. But yeah, this whole story that they've played over, I was like, man, they're incredible. And anything with Jimmy Havoc, and people will get more familiar with Havoc now that he's with AEW. But the stories they told with him early on, like that stuff, that it's great. But and it's one thing to see a great match that tears the house down. But if it's part of a greater story, that just makes it 1,000 times better.
Ultimately so much more rewarding.
Yeah.
And that's what in indie wrestling, that's something that kind of gets forgot. Like even at the base level, I've worked for various companies. I've worked for companies like say CWE, where they just go town to town on a tour, and everything's just sort of the same. It's like house show. It's the same sort of recycled thing over and over again. But like if you're in a market, there's something about taking that time and putting all that nuance to it that is so much more rewarding for the fans. It isn't like you're not dropping things along the way. And things change. People get injured, like you said. Things happen, but it just constantly keeping an idea of how everything's working and interweave it back in. It's like Game of Thrones,
right?
Or any story, whereas like it constantly rewards you. That's what keeps you hooked. The Marvel movies, perfect example. I use them way too much, but like they're all intertwined. So it's like you just have these little Easter eggs or things that just keep drawing you back in, and it's like they got their 10 claws in you, right? So
Marvel movies. Who's your favorite villain?
My favorite villain. It's tough to say. No, because there's so many. Loki kind of wins it all, and Tom Hiddleston does an amazing job. I actually almost wish, and hopefully he will get more of a chance to kind of build upon that. But I really liked the idea of Baron von Strucker, Baron Zemo, in Civil War. He wasn't super powered. He basically just manipulated everybody. He used everybody against each other. I think there's a theme going on with me here, but I think he was one of those ones that's underappreciated.
Sure.
And I loved what
you mentioned. The theme that's going on with you here. So we said we'd give you an opportunity to explain yourself, because at a couple shows ago now, you just took the knife. You stuck it in. You gave it a nice little turn.
Got to give it a turn.
Got to give it a turn. So for those listening who maybe aren't local to Edmonton, following PWA, you're going to hear us talk about it more now because we finally decided if we're going to shows, we might as well talk about them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you, sir, after a great match where Michael Richard Blaze, who we had on the show, wins the belt, you come out and you just ripped everyone's hearts out. What the hell, man?
I wasn't trying to rip everybody's hearts out. I was just trying to make a point, to make a statement.
Yeah.
Like you said, I came out and I sung Michael's accolades.
Sure.
I spoke to what he's done in the last year or two. Everything he's been on. Joey Janela's Spring Break. He's NXT, WWE TV, extra work. Going through the UK on a tour of all, one of the biggest families in the UK, staying on their couch. He's living the dream. But one of the things, I'm new to PWA. I obviously know PWA. I'm very versed. I like to pride myself in knowing anything that's local, even almost anything that's Canadian.
Yeah.
I need to know almost absolutely everything about it. And I'm just a sponge for everything. And coming into PWA, I knew I was going to get this job as a commissioner. I needed to look at the last few years. Well, you look at the last few years, and Michael's just always the champion. And things get a little tired after a while. You kind of start insulting the fans, and you start insulting other people on the card, and then you have someone as remarkable as Michael Allen Richard Clark, who just has set Saskatchewan on fire, and he's working, and you have him in the bottom rungs in a tag team, which, I love you, Bobby. I love them both. Body Break was amazing, but I knew Michael had something special, and I'm not talking about the Blaze. I'm talking about the Clark. And so I like I said to him, I said, you're the perfect champion for PWA, and he's been the perfect champion for PWA for how long? But this is my PWA now. I'm in charge. I was handed the keys on I can't remember the date in January, but I was handed the keys in January. I walked in and I was in charge of the company, and I took everything in. I took my time, and I'm proud of Michael for winning that championship, but it was time. You never know when he might be gone. The guy's really talented. He might go out to the UK again. I need my champion. I need Michael Allen Richard Clark, and that's why I brought him out.
So you like Michael Allen Richard Clark?
Who doesn't?
Sure. He's an extraordinary performer.
Super talented.
So why don't you just give him a fair shot as opposed to, Blaze just having, like I said, quite the match, wins the belt, the emotion that's there. He's super excited, and then you call out Michael Allen Richard Clark to come take advantage of a guy who just had, a 20-minute match or so?
It's 30.
30-minute match?
Yeah, it was 30. And it was an amazing match for Kenneth Anthony. And I think Kenneth Anthony's taking some time off right now just because that was a grueling match. But Mr. Clark was owed a rematch. He never got his rematch. And the time, you have to pick and choose your times. And the time was perfect. With everything coming up, the time was absolutely perfect. I knew it was time to finally say what I felt. And I felt like Michael Allen Richard Clark was my PWA champion.
Okay, sure.
And so I gave him his rematch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was after a match. But, you look at Money in the Bank and all these sort of things.
Sure.
Everybody capitalizes. It's nature, right? Survival
we'll allow
of the fittest, right?
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, fine. You do that. And then you got another match. This time, an actual match between. Now, I believe there was a match in between these two down in Calgary that we didn't see, correct? Where
Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed. I'm actually only the Edmonton commissioner.
Yeah, okay.
Duke Durango is the Calgary commissioner.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's doing down there.
Okay.
I'm trying to not stick my nose in his business. I might want to try to get down there soon to give him a hand. I feel like he might need a hand. But they had a match. It sort of ended in a schmozzle.
Yeah.
I had no part of that, and
No,
I said
and that's fine.
not to step on his toes.
Yeah.
I was not going to show up there.
Yeah.
And I was invited, but
That's fair. But one thing you did have entire control over was the match that followed after the schmoz, which was another match between Michael Richard Blaze, Michael Allen Richard Clark, which two names that are way too similar. Too much.
I know.
Too many Michael Richards here. Michael Richards.
There's two.
Yeah, too many. No. Anyway, another great match, and I literally said mid-match, and on our review of that show, I said this, man. I'd like these guys to continue working together. Great match that they're having here. Then we get a run-in from a guy who has quickly become one of the most entertaining Twitter follows on all of Twitter, Jack Pride. Definitely worth it. Also, extra points to Jack Pride. He's a Leafs fan. Or I should say they are a Leafs fan.
Boo.
Is that how that works?
yeah, it's,
Anyway.
I'm still I've known him for a while, and I'm still working on
Still
the
trying to
verbiage,
sort that one out, yeah.
Yeah.
Interferes. The entire locker room comes out. You clear the ring. The match starts up again. So at this point, the referee has not called for a stop in the match. All right, we'll keep it going. MRB hits Brainbuster, about to get the pin. And who's over there ringing the bell? Guy who has no business ringing the bell.
He's the commissioner.
No business
He's the
ringing the
commissioner.
bell.
He
Yeah.
was excited. He got caught up in the moment. He wanted the match to continue.
So you're saying, hold on.
And then he realized that Mark Andrews was attacked.
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews.
Remember
He
that?
should have been
I
attacked. Michael Allen. Nope.
No.
Michael Richard Blaze.
Yeah.
Hey,
good job.
I'm excited too.
Good job. I don't know if we can
Um,
trust anything
no,
that you say from
I'm
this
falling
point on.
apart here. I'm just way too
Yeah.
excited.
That's a
MRB.
shout out to Braden Parsons, a.k.a. Darren.
Yeah, you're
Love you, Darren.
you dug yourself a hole
Yo,
there, my friend.
Darren is still asking me to pay league fees, and then we can make fun of Space Mountain together. I'm unsure about that.
I highly
so-
recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we do like Spaceman.
But what you said there,
Okay.
what
He was
you
excited, and then he realized what happened, and he ran over to correct the mistake.
Sure.
Easy
but
as that.
I got to point something out here. You said he got caught up in the moment.
Yes.
As a guy who's supposed to be in control of, running a promotion and making sure everything runs smoothly.
He wanted to
I
have
don't
a
think
good
he should be
match.
getting caught. It sounds like Thad, as I've referred to him before, the scum of the earth, or maybe a snake. It seems as though maybe you're a little too emotional for the job. If you're getting caught up, were you caught up in the moment when you allowed the match to continue?
I wasn't caught up in the moment. No, no. It's a matter of I was seeing where things were going, and as in retrospect, I'm here analyzing my brain, and I have these moron fans here screaming in my ear. Some of these old ladies screaming obscenities with children around.
A lot of old ladies.
And I'm trying to process all this, and I just thought, no, this should be a disqualification. For a second, the match was so very entertaining. I was ringside for that entire match. One of the most entertaining PWA matches I've ever seen. Either in the crowd visiting or being part of PWA. And so for a second, I wanted to let that continue. Right. I wanted to see these guys, reach a finish, not just someone running in. But in retrospect, it was getting late in the night, show was running long, and I just said, let's go ring the bell.
I mean,
and
I did complain about the length of the show.
I heard you.
It was late. It was late. Yeah, sure. So it's just nice timing, MRB about to get the win. Thad's over there, grabbing the hammer to ring the bell, grabbing the mic from Ivan. Everyone's going, what's going on here? I'm pretty sure, though, if I recall with wrestling, it's it's typically ref's discretion, I believe, is a term that's thrown around a lot.
No, not as far as I've been led
Not
to
with
believe.
Archer's-
No.
the era of Archer?
Sorry, we're going back into PWA history here,
Yeah.
and Mr. Sorokin said it before. Our generous and amazing CEO, he said it before that. The commissioner, it's up to them. They are the catalyst to make matches and to undo matches, and if possible, change the outcome of matches. Deal with the referees. Sometimes referees aren't all there. They get knocked out. Believe it or not, once in a while, a referee gets knocked out. Yeah, and so we have to come out there and basically provide the structure for everything. So
when a referee is conscious, though. In which this case, I believe, was it Ryan was reffing?
Yeah, I was worried about him because he took a good hit there from Pride.
Sure.
Like he got a good hit from Pride. Pride laid into him. So
I like to the integrity aspect that you're presenting here. I'd like to believe it because Thaddeus, you've changed, and in the Archer report you said think about it. I believe you were talking to
Maxton Flexwell.
Yeah, I say Maxton Flexwell.
Yep.
He said, "Have I really changed?" And you know what? I think you have.
No. Like I said, the smart man over here to my left.
No, he's the man who said you were emotional and making calls based on him. Yeah,
no, you need to look at everything. And the reason why I had that conversation with Maxton is because I literally started out with him. We trained together years and years ago. He took a bit of a break and then came back to things, but he was a PW referee for quite a many years.
Right.
And that's why I said to him, you really have to paint an entire picture. That's, for me, there's no good or bad. It's the bottom line. I can't think of a better way to say this, and it's in a completely overused tagline or way to put things, but it's what's best for business. It's what's best for the company, and it's what's best for wrestling. And that's what I do. If you look throughout the community, I'm talking to all sorts of people. I'm talking to the Bear. I've sold tickets to a wrestling show in line at the grocery store. And my wife, recently my wife and I were talking about different things, and we were playing a game with some other people, and they had the thing where, what is the one thing that bothers you about your significant other? And her thing was talking to people about wrestling too much. It's for me, it's what's best for the bottom line, and I may make choices that people don't enjoy. Oh, well,
you know what?
We move on. There's a show every month. Let's keep on trucking away.
Well, yeah, but he's only in charge of Edmonton.
He's only in charge of one.
Which
one day they'll give me.
Which actually answered a question, a legit question.
I was going to ask Destiny this weekend.
Yes,
but obviously, since you're not in charge, asking you what's in store at Destiny this weekend. Probably.
Well, I know what's happening. What's in store there? I was actually invited to come again, but I have prior commitments. It's the big tag match is going to be insane. They still haven't found a partner for Mr. Shabazz, but who knows? Maybe it'll be Andy Anderson.
Which I was
Probably
going to
not.
say. I was going to say you've also aligned yourself with Andy Anderson.
He's an amazing wrestler.
So
Why
I mean,
wouldn't
you can make your claims about what's best for business, and how you had Michael Allen Richard Clark come out for his impromptu title match, and the call you made rematch, and the call you made at the end of their most recent match.
Call.
The correct. You shut up.
I like this guy. He gets it.
He gets it. You know who doesn't like him? Darren. Darren doesn't like him.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry, Darren.
you have to earn Darren's. Wait a second, Now
Don,
I'm going to have to pay extra league fees.
You heard it here
I'm
first.
so sorry. Bear Cub, my boy, Davey, these guys are like poison. They're getting into my ears. But no, you have to earn his respect. Nonetheless, it's just how things are. Andy, you'd be an absolute, if you were in the world of professional wrestling and you didn't sit down and lend an ear to Andy Anderson, you'd be a moron. You might as well turn around and walk out the back of the locker room and not come back. The man has so much experience and knowledge.
Can't argue.
It's like basically grabbing the wrestling Bible and just talking to it and learning everything from it. Because the man's worked in Puerto Rico, the man's worked some for WWE, certain matches and stuff for WWF in that time. He's worked all over the world. The guy has worked through this, Edmonton area in Alberta, across Canada as well. Worked with one of my other mentors, Pitbull, Robbie Royce. Sorry, it's late, but Robbie Royce actually trained him. He's out in Manitoba, so they've worked, sort of the whole loop here. And when I had a chance to, when he wanted to come back and he was having issues with Mr. Sorokin after his whole thing with Boris, I made a point of, a locker room needs this kind of knowledge. They need this man. We need this man in PWA. It's what's best for PWA, my PWA.
All I can picture now is you holding Andy Anderson under your arm like you're carrying a Bible. That's the image that's going with me from here on out. So that's how I picture Andy Anderson.
Pretty sure it worked the other way around.
Probably would, but now
around.
I'm picturing it this way. All right. You know what? We let you say your piece, and we'll see how things play out. I'm picturing, not necessarily picturing. I'm assuming, and you know what they say about assuming, that in the end, we talked about Marvel movies, your favorite Marvel villains in all the Marvel movies. The good guy won. Now, without spoiling too much, sometimes good guys also died, though. So who knows? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Mr. Blaze might Tony Stark it. We never know. So
Well, I was trying not to spoil stuff. Now,
what did you
Talking about
spoil?
the first movie.
Yeah.
The first
okay,
Avengers
fair
movie.
enough.
Come on.
No, all right. I did want to say, thanks for coming on and hanging out.
Absolutely.
I tread a little closer to your side after the Kevin Smith comments. We bonded a little bit over that, which they were actually. You didn't watch it yet, but
I saw some on the feed, and there's a video I haven't got to. Like my day job, I'm constantly busy. It used to be a point in a previous day job where I had a lot of time on the internet, so that's where I'd kind of pull a lot of my extra wrestling watching time, being a father and such, and having to take kids to different things. But I saw the clip and I didn't watch it. I just stopped myself. I'm going to come back to it, of Joey Janela walking up to both Jay and Silent Bob, and I was like, oh, the Jersey-ish type stuff here is just going to be beautiful. So I hope they do more with it. I never thought Kevin was much of a wrestling fan, but if they want to work along with it, I mean, his humor. I think wrestling should always have some humor, and you can see that with the Archer Report.
For sure.
You got to have some levity to the yelling, screaming, drama.
I didn't see the Joey Janela bit.
It
must be
was
backstage?
scrolling on Twitter. Yeah, it was backstage.
Okay, 'cause
it wasn't on Dynamite.
Yeah, because they were on Dynamite.
Yeah. No, this was like a backstage sort of. I think it was
Gotcha.
probably on Joey's thing, but
Gotcha. Yeah.
and he's great at picking those things. It's Superhuman being on on the Game Changer Wrestling. That was just.
I didn't picture Kevin Smith as being a wrestling fan either, and I think the connection is purely that Chris Jericho is in Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Smith.
They made very good friends. A couple years back.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's a wrestler, but it looked like he was having fun. Jason Mewes looked like he was having fun.
Oh yeah,
so
Jason would
awesome.
love it. So.
Yeah. Anyway, real quick, I guess if people want to follow whether they picture it as, the knowledge of Thaddeus Archer III or the heaping pile of trash.
Wow.
I'm specifically referring to your tweets. I'll let them decide who you are on their own. But where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Thaddeus Archer III, I believe. Almost everything I think is Thaddeus Archer III, except for Instagram. I haven't changed it. It's just Thaddeus Archer, which has angered a trumpet player down in the South. There's a guy named Thaddeus Archer, and he's a famous trumpet player, and I think he's annoyed that I have his tag handle that he wants. But I'm just going to hang on spite. I'm not going to make it 3 yet. I'm going to hold on to it for a bit longer. But no, Thaddeus Archer III, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, but I haven't been on there in a while. But I try to be everywhere, and then YouTube, Thaddeus Archer III on YouTube, and that isn't just me. That is the Archer Report, and the Archer Report is, even though my name's in the title, it isn't me. It is absolutely everybody I'm working with in wrestling at that time, and that's PWA currently.
Yeah. I will say this about anyone who goes, and I'd heard about it, and then more recently actually watched a few episodes. Anyone who's from Edmonton or the area that goes to PWA shows, and you're like, what the heck happens in between these? It's actually a great place to kind of get promos, stories.
Or even like you mentioned before, you missed shows. You missed the Teddy Hart versus MRB.
Yeah.
Well, you can catch up.
Yeah.
Through, and that's what it is we don't get TV, the luxury of TV here in Alberta. And certain companies have got TV, and it's not gone very well. And now Shaw's just gone, and no one else is going to give us a chance. Social media. Look what the Elites or what the Bucks and them did, and what other people do. They work really hard. So that's what I bust my every show. I am essentially, from the moment we walk in the venue until pretty much they're kicking us out, I'm running around filming, running through the back, trying to get people to film and trying to get all this information, all this story to the people that may miss a show or want to know what happens between the show and the fans. It's a better way to draw in more fans, right?
There you go. So you can find that on YouTube. And
yes, sir.
I'm sure you share it on your Twitter as well.
I share it on everything. Actually, coming up with so it was supposed to be this week's episode, but my editing guy was in Canmore. Next week's episode is going to be on Facebook Direct.
Oh, cool.
We just decided let's get it out there. Most people are really lazy and they don't want to hit a link
Right.
on Facebook. So you're scrolling, boom, we're going to put it on there. And then on there, I also do a lot of stuff to support the local community. I'm not that much of a bad guy. That About Town, where I basically showcase local independently owned businesses in the hot seat, which you can call it what it is. It's just like Hot Ones, but at a local level. And we sit down and go to Northern
Just
Chicken
an excuse to eat chicken wings.
and eat really spicy chicken wings, or increasingly spicy chicken wings. But the sauces they make are just like nuts,
Nice.
like habanero watermelon and just all kinds of weird kind of. We all have fun.
There you
So
go. Yeah, there you go. And I mean, it's a podcast. People can listen to this whenever. But next PWA show in Edmonton is Fright Night, coming up nearly Halloween, October 26th. I'm assuming. Well, I'm not assuming. I'm hoping Thaddeus Archer III, gets his comeuppance. That maybe it's time.
Well, the things obviously. We have a video. You'll see things. I don't want to spoil. I know. I thought something had been released and someone's admitted to something, but I will say the Michaels are not in a match together.
Oh, those guys.
Things. You know what? There's a history between Jack Pride and MRB, and I think that needs to get settled.
That's fair. I look forward to that.
Yeah,
too.
let them have their way, and at the same time, we'll give a new challenger to Mr. Clark because he's had enough of God's gift to wrestling, or whatever you want to call him, right? So, yeah, it's October 26th, Northgate Lions Senior Center, Rec Center. Come down. The thing about Fright Night, I don't know if you guys ever been to a Fright Night before.
I have.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. Like, a lot of PWA fans may not make it, like casual fans may not make it to every show. Fright Night's kind of like you have to, it's like your SummerSlam or like your Survivor Series or your Royal Rumble, because we bring out all the props. We have costume contests. Some of our people, say Ivan or Boris, they dress up. I will say I have a brand new suit I'm debuting, and there might be there'll definitely not be your traditional Thaddeus Archer III. There'll be something to the suit, so I'll be debuting that as well. And we're just have some fun and watch my PWA champion, Michael Allen Richard Clark, win again.
Well, we shall see.
Worth
Fright Night.
the ticket price alone.
Worth the ticket price alone. Fright Night, October 26th. And, I mean, if you're not from here, so you can't come to these shows that we've started talking about, you did mention the Archer Report, where you can kind of... You guys, PWA, also on Pivot Share.
Pivot Share, yeah.
So,
and watch that. Boris, have you watched a lot of the footage?
No.
Have you watched Pivot Share? Or even pick up a DVD. Boris, it's seriously, like, close to Morrow. Like he's gone to broadcasting school. The man is an amazing talent on play-by-play, even though he gets disappointed at me at certain times. But and that's an Archer Report throwback. But yeah, he's an amazing play-by-play guy. So it's very entertaining, well filmed, and I recommend that just as much as Archer Report.
There you go. We're done. That's it.
Yeah,
I've handled about as much time as I can. I
you
think.
can go cry yourself to sleep tonight on your huge
5,
pillow.
6 feet away from it. Yeah, are you calling me Heed?
Heed.